Okay. Did that tell you guys it's recording?
Yep.
Okay, cool. All right. So welcome to Parenting Little Ones. My name is Jenny, and today's session is called Talkin, Tots, and we're going to be talking about language development and bilingualism in early childhood and some of the benefits to that. Today's session is being recorded, and all of our, if you're joining us as a guest today, all questions will be anonymous. And if you could just pop those into the Q&A chat for our guest panelists today, that would be really helpful. The chat is a little hard to manage, so the Q&A section, oh, we already got one, awesome. So that's a really great place to start. Let's see, I'm gonna be sending out a poll. Let's do that now. And this is asking how old your kiddo is, so we can kind of know how to gauge the question. All right, and I'll give you about 30 seconds to answer that one. Right, and I don't know if our panelists can answer that one too. And 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, and poll, and share results. So it looks like we have 1 pregnant and expecting, 1 1-year-old, and 1 3-year-old. So a little on the younger side, but our conversation can talk about all ages, so that's great. I do want to mention that at the end of this session, I'll be sending out a survey to all the participants, and if you complete that survey, you get entered into the KiwiCo Create Grand Prize drawing for the whole 5-week session, and you also get entered into the $50 gift card drawing for this particular session for King Super, Walmart, Target, or Barnes & Noble. So please fill out the surveys. They really do help us a lot in designing these. Let's see. And if you just, sometimes these sessions, somebody will forward a link and say, hey, you should show up, and you didn't actually register. That's totally okay. But it does mean I don't have your email address. So if that's the case, if you don't mind calling the library district and leaving a voicemail with your email, that would be great. Phone number is 719-531-6333. And then my personal extension for this session is 6052. So if you could just let me know what your email address is, if that is the case, I would really appreciate it. So again, my name is Jenny, and I'm the early literacy librarian for the East Library and the Southeast region. And I've been with the district for about 5 years working with young children, and for about 17 years total working with this age group. So that's me. And let's introduce our panelists. So let's start with Madam Barbara. Would you like to go ahead and say some words about yourself and your organization?
Sure, I'm Madam Barbara, and my organization is the Springs French Music Lingua. So I teach French using music and art and drama and dance. And we really just play in French. So we teach French to kids with music. And I've been doing that for about a decade, and I just love it. And I love seeing kids grow through it and their whole families. And we can get into the why, how, and answer questions, but I'll turn it over to Jill.
Sure. So my name is Jill Semino, and I am a speech language pathologist. I have been an SLP, that's what we abbreviated as SLP, for about 12 years. And I currently work for the Resource Exchange here in town, which provides services to individuals with disabilities across the lifespan, but I work particularly just with early intervention, so kids birth to 3, who have identified speech and language delays, or disorders, and kind of do coaching with families to talk about how to stimulate language and kind of give kids a boost. And yeah, I love all things language, and love kids. So it's been a really nice blend for me. And yeah, I look forward to answering questions tonight.
All right. Oh, did you want to add something?
I was going to say, I forgot to mention that my classes are geared for kids up to about 8 to 10. So I have kids start with me in utero, And this is kind of like, I know there's a format for what this program is, but languages are, they start very, very early. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there, that this is for even pre-verbal kids.
Great. Well, let's see. I have our first question here. And actually, before I read this, Madam Barbara, did you want to mention the question you were talking about families and if they're bilingual or not?
Yeah, I had asked before everybody joined. I was curious to know how many people who are joining us today as parents speak more than one language. If you're speaking a language other than English to your kids, or if you are a monolinguistic family and would like to add languages, just because the conversation can be geared in two different directions. So I just wanted to make sure I knew who was asking questions, so to speak. So I can see the questions. Is it okay if I look and?
Oh, sure. The Q&A questions or the chat questions?
So I see Shannon is asking a question about her child's primary language, which gives me a hint that maybe they're not speaking English at home, but he's getting English. And how old is the son? And oh, she's written something else.
So I'll read it out loud so our other guests can read it. She says, my child has been struggling with his expressive speech in his primary language to the point where others find him unintelligible. I've been hesitant to try any words or phrases from other languages to complicate the situation, but would like to. Thoughts?
And then I see she added to the questions. You want to read that one too, so it kind of gets more clarification.
Yeah, says my 3-year-old has been in speech therapy, and I'm assuming this is the same child.
Guided.
My 3-year-old has been in speech therapy for 6 months. He does great in session with the SLP specialist. He has started preschool, and other kids aren't always able to understand him, leading to frustration. What can I do to help?
I have a couple of things going through my head. It's really interesting, and the speech therapists, they often send kids to language training because it helps them use their mouths differently. So when we speak English, I always make fun a little bit. When we speak English, we move our mouths like this. But when we speak French, we do a lot of kissy lips and smiles. So it's really fun with the kids, especially if they're having trouble moving their mouths in a certain way to make a sound. Then if you throw a whole nother language, that really helps them actually. And it's great to see their confidence level rise, because maybe they're having trouble with the English R's, but they can nail the French R, and you can just see the confidence grow in them. So the speech pathology and language learning really do go hand in hand. And I love that. So going back to kind of the gobbledygook, and it's not uncommon for kids, even that are not in speech therapy, to have a little bit of a garbled time as they progress in their language development. And I have lots of little stories. One just recently happened to me. I was at Costco, and this woman with 2 small children were waiting in line with me, and her son started talking to me. Like, he really wanted to say something to me. And I was really listening hard, and I couldn't understand anything that he was saying, but he was so enthusiastic, and our eyes met, and we were just kind of being together. And she finally intervened. She goes, "You don't understand what he's saying, do you?" And I'm like, "No, but I'm really enjoying him." And she said, "Well, he's speaking to you in Korean." I was like, "Oh, well, I don't speak Korean." And she goes, "Yes, but he thinks he's still trying to figure out who speaks what language." And she's speaking Korean at home. And she said to me, I think maybe I should not speak Korean to him anymore. And I was like, "Oh, wait. I was like, actually, I'm a language teacher, and do not stop speaking your language to your child at home. It would that is not recommended." They used to recommend that families only speak English, and that it would not, to avoid confusing their children. But we know now that that is not helpful. And we know that kids that grow up bilingual or multilingual are stronger cognitively. They're better multitaskers, on and on and on. You can Google up. Your brain structure is different for multilingual kids. So please, if you have that gift to give to your children, by all means, speak as many languages as you can. I have families that are have 3 or 4 languages already in their household, and then they come and take French class as a family because it's fun and they can do it all together and it's a level playing field. So do lots of languages. I'm sorry, Jill, if you want to interject, but there's a lot of studies out there, and no one can really conclusively say, does speaking multiple languages to your child cause them a delay in speaking? And I think my take on it, because the scientists haven't really come up with a concrete answer to that. And I really think it's a temperament thing. I think that some kids are a little bit of a perfectionist, and they're not going to throw themselves out there in language, in any of the languages, until they get it right. You may have known the kids around you. Some kids they just start speaking. And then there's some kids that are huge risk takers, and they don't care if they make a mistake. They're going to just throw out some garbly goop, and if they get one word in there, that's cool. So they all kind of have their own little personalities. And in my classes, I really work with them. If it's a quiet child, then we aren't going to ask them to be loud. We're going to maybe sing a quiet song for them and really accommodate them for that. So I would say just keep on going, and it might feel awkward sometimes, and that's part of language learning. So it may be your child's personality, but I would just keep praising and making, celebrations over the small things, and not restrict the language, and just keep going. And it's okay. Kids can be confused. They'll get through it.
Yeah, I think I agree with everything that Barbara has said, and I do sometimes like to just break down language a little bit in terms of there's receptive language, and so that's what kids can understand, and then there's expressive language, which it seems like Shannon already can differentiate, like as she said, the expressive language. So I'm assuming receptively he understands everything, in which case by all means, don't be afraid to try something new. And like Barbara said, sometimes the new mouth shapes can kind of trigger a confidence, or trigger just like some new motor pathways. But there are some kids who have trouble understanding language too, and those kids require a little bit different or just a little more kind of careful procedure. But I'm assuming that's not his case. And if he's doing well one-on-one with his speech pathologist, I think he's probably close, and it's not abnormal for lots of kids in preschool to be having trouble being understood. What's hard is that 3-year-olds are really bad listeners. they're not going to be patient. They're not going to take the extra time to say, what did you say? They're probably just walking away, or I can see how that's leading to probably some frustration. So I would definitely get the teacher on board and try to figure out, is it particular sounds that are troubling for him? Is it his pacing that he needs help with? And can he be paired up with a friend who is a little more patient, maybe, who's gonna boost his confidence? Because that's really what he needs, is to have the experience of being understood and kind of be like, okay, yes. But it sounds like you're doing all the right things. You've got him in speech therapy. He's working with his therapist and doing well there. So yeah, I would say don't be afraid to introduce another language, especially if you're fluent in it or have some competency in it. And yeah, he should be off and going. Sometimes the milestone that I'll tell parents is that at 3, we really want kids to be saying 3-word sentences together that should be like mostly intelligible. And so it sounds like maybe he's not quite there, and he'll get there, but it's not. I think sometimes parents have the expectation that their kids should be speaking in like full sentences and be totally understandable at 3, and that's not. They're still learning all the nuances and sounds, and so really you're kind of thinking of that target. Can they do 3 short phrases that are intelligible to everybody? That's sort of the benchmark of what we're going for.
And I would really talk with the preschool teacher or teachers and see what they're saying, and if they have any, anything that they can do. I've seen some really creative things happen in preschool classrooms, where it may be the kids that are so shy, and that's the challenge for the child. And I'm thinking of my own kids in a classroom, and a couple of their friends were so shy that they made a shy table. and then they got confident talking to other shy kids, and then it was no big deal anymore. So it's like hopefully the preschool can accommodate and come up with some creative ways to help him feel included, even though he may not feel like he's being understood all the time. And I'm finding that one special friend. I know there's a lot of siblings where the older sibling will translate the gobbledygook that's coming out of their younger sibling who just hasn't gotten there yet, but they understand, so it's like, and it's just a little chapter, and you'll get through this, Mama. Definitely will.
I'd like to add to this question before we move on to the next one. I hear a lot, I've worked with a lot of students who are deaf, and then I've worked with a lot of students who are obviously hearing, and their parents who are specifically concerned about teaching ASL and how that might impact their speech development. So I usually try to encourage them not to do that, because I love ASL and I wish everybody could do that. But I was wondering if there's any research that shows that might hinder language development, like encourage children to speak with their hands instead of developing their spoken speech. And I'm talking about hearing children, obviously not deaf children.
No, in fact, I really encourage parents of very young children to do baby sign language, which is, the forms of sign language. And I have a little thing here. If there's at the library, you can get baby signing times. That's how much I have a thing to show. So, and the reason being is that kids are learning languages in utero. When babies are born, they can distinguish, and this is for hearing, of course, they can distinguish their mother's tongue or their father's tongue from another foreign language. They've been able to figure that out, even though the kids are not really expressive yet. But kids want to speak so badly. Their brains are wired for languages right out of the womb, and they can't get their mouths to work, but they can do all done. They can do more. And I just think it's really, really important. And, there's all kinds of books out there on how you can do it. And I have found that the kids that are doing sign language before they have the verbal abilities are much calmer, because they're getting their needs met. Kids that want more and they're not getting that across, and they're not getting more, they get frustrated. We all would. So I just find that those kids are really easy and happy and calm. And then as their mouths grow, even in my music language classes, we use, when we're saying more, we do it in English, we do it in sign, and we do it in French. Encore. And I was doing this last week in my class, and we kept repeating it. I did this, and I didn't even say encore. The kids were like, encore, or fini. So, and it's a neurological thing too. So when we're learning languages, we want to be moving our bodies. And if we're singing about or talking about running, we can pretend to run, but you can't do that with everything. So we incorporate a lot of sign language. And I just think it's super neurologically beneficial. And I think if you're in a situation where there's hearing and non-hearing, if you're speaking it while you're doing it, they learn to read lips too. So there's no harm in doing both.
I love how you put that they're getting their needs met, so they're probably feeling more calm. I'm going to steal that. I'm totally going to tell
people. And then they're moving on to other things, because instead of spending all of their energy trying to get what they want, now they're like, oh, they're learning more about the world around them because they've settled there. Yeah.
And I see that there's a question that is kind of addressing signs, asking about an 18-month-old that uses like 5 to 10 signs but doesn't have any spoken words yet.
Oh, I see that.
Yeah, and how to get him to stop signing. And it's like, it's actually good. And I sometimes explain to parents too that speaking is a fine motor process. So just like we wouldn't necessarily expect an 18-month-old to be writing in the alphabet with a perfect grasp, your mouth cannot make all of the sounds because it's a fine motor integration, and our motor pathways aren't there yet. And so sometimes it's just easier for a kid to do more, to sign milk, to say, to say water, to say please, and it is empowering to them. And the spoken language will come. There's really good research in the speech field about using, we call it alternative communication, that then actually boosts kids' spoken language later on. So lots of parents have this question for me: oh, if we teach them sign, will their speech be delayed, or will they always depend on sign? And all of the research shows us that that's not the case, and that communication is what we're going for. We want them to learn, when I do this, that gets me the white good stuff I want. Oh, and that also has a word, milk or leche or whatever it is in French.
Yeah,
and that will come.
And your eyes aren't always on them, so they can quickly find out if they say milk when your back is to them, then it's even faster. And we are just wired to be communicators. It is just in our DNA to be communicators. So much so that I love this other little fact about learning languages. And I like to do this little science experiment with the kids and their parents. Kids have this ability to reproduce sounds that we do not as adults. And my example is, I would love to learn Mandarin, but I didn't hear Mandarin as a child, and I can't hear the tones, and I can't reproduce them. It's just not there. Maybe if I was immersed in the language for a very long time, I could get there, but it is really hard for my brain to do that. Whereas kids, if I say, let's make the French R sound, which does not exist in the English language, it almost sounds like there's a lion stuck in your throat. We go, and it's not in your mouth, it's in your throat. And kids can almost always get it. First, second, third try, they've got it. And their parents are like, can't get it, because it's a brain muscle thing. And the interesting thing is that if kids hear the sound and they reproduce it successfully as a child, it actually stays in their brain for the rest of their life. So my example is, and I love music, obviously, is a great way. And there's all kinds of international kids music. I really like this one. I know the CDs are available at the library too, but whatever you have on your device, just Google it up and do some international kids music. If they are singing the song, it doesn't matter if they know what the words are. My kids love this Flemish song, so we got all those gurgly sounds, and we just loved singing it. We don't know what we were saying, but someday if they want to learn Flemish or the Russian song we sang or whatever it is, they'll have those sounds that they will be able to get the correct sound to come out of their mouths instantly. So it's a gift for your children to expose them to lots and lots of languages early on. And we know at about age 8, 11, that ability starts going away, and their brain is moving on to other things. Because typically by those middle school years, especially, that language, they're moving on to other skill sets in their brain. And certainly by the time that their brains are fully formed in their early 20s, then it becomes very, very much difficult to add that dimension in their brain. There's actually a neuron in there that we need to stimulate. So it's really interesting to see how the brain develops and what power you have as parents to enable your children to have brains that are language learners. So do what you can when you can, how you can, I say so. Anyway, I got a little bit off the tangent. Did I?
Yeah. Are we ready to move on to our next question?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. This question says, we have a lot of family in Germany. Many of them speak excellent English, but I would love for my daughter to learn German. I'm trying to learn the language myself as well. But do you have any tips for us in the meantime? Some things to give her a head start, or so to speak. She's 18 months and her brain is a total sponge.
Isn't that true? Yeah. I really regret, we have Music Lingua is actually in several different languages. I do the French program, and there's a Spanish program. Our Spanish teacher just retired, so we're looking to have a new Spanish teacher in town, and it's also in German. And I have been working so hard to get a German teacher. There is a woman out in Talkin who has a German preschool. So if you reach out to me, I can get you her contact details. So she uses this curriculum in her preschool, but she's not currently teaching it to the public. So that's kind of where I'm at with German. There's a lot of online things you can do, but I always say, parents, that are learning languages have kids who are learning languages. So if you're inspired to learn German, mom, go for it and involve your children. There's a couple of things I can throw up here. We have, again, the library, Little Pim, and he speaks like every language in the world. And I know there's a German, a couple of German DVDs out there. And I don't necessarily recommend that kids do a lot of video time, but you could just have it playing in the background, and you could, you know, like as he's saying the German word, you say the German word, and make it a fun thing, you know. And even, you know, for parents and adults, I'm sorry, got to like library things. Mango Languages is a free service. It's like Rosetta Stone. I think that the library actually changed Rosetta Stone. We went back to Mango because families preferred it. So with your library card, you can go onto the library website, and I'm not sure where it is on the website now because I keep moving it, but you can access Mango Languages in German.
I think it's called digital or all. I can look it up, but it won't let me because I'm hosting. It is on our website though, and it is a wonderful service. We have tons of languages on there, including pirate. Just saying, if you want to learn pirate, that's on there.
The language. I was like, I don't know that program.
But yeah, Mango is really great. We went on a vacation, and it's really it's something you can put plug your phone into your car and your audio and kind of do as a family too, as practicing phrases and things like that. It's a really great tool.
Oh, that's fun. So as long as we're doing like languages, and this could apply to anybody at home who's like, I really want to learn Russian. I want my child to learn Russian, you know, do as a family. And I like Duolingo too for readers and writers. And it's nice because it's an app on your phone. It reminds you to do a little bit every day. And it doesn't mean that you have to like do 8 hours of this a day. Just do a little bit every day, because even adults that are learning languages, it's great for our brains. And they do have studies out that say that doing languages, learning them or speaking them, actually delays the onset of dementia. So it's better than Sudoku. So everybody do that. And then we all have apps on our phone. Google Translate is great because you can make a really fun game about it at your house, you know, so you go around and you identify things. And I always say, like, if you're learning French, which is what I do, you know, so maybe you want to figure out, well, how do you say the table in French, and use the article the or a, because there's a feminine, masculine. And I know German is even more complicated than that, but do that. And then it'll tell you la table, and then switch it around, use it as a tool. I always think of, and you can say in French, la table. And if it doesn't come back the table, then you didn't say it correctly. So try again, listen and learn again. I always think about when I was a child learning the piano, I would play my piano piece wrong the whole week. And then I get with my teacher at the end of the week, and I had to unlearn to relearn. So it's wonderful that we have all this technology, especially for as adults, that we can use that to our advantage and not fall into bad habits as we learn. So really capitalize on that. And if you know anybody that speaks German, anybody, send them my way. I mentor new language teachers across the country for Music Lingua as well. So it's a passion of mine to help new teachers get often, and I get all kinds of requests for German. I don't know of any schools that are doing German in the elementary, except maybe the International Language School might have a German program for homeschoolers, but I could be wrong about that. But feel free to contact me directly and we can brainstorm about some more German resources. But yeah, go for it, especially if she has family that, you know, could speak to her. And you know, I think that's really important.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is that if your family members would be up for it, I don't know if they are in Germany, or if now with like Zoom, getting them on a video call if they're not here, and seeing if they would do even just like some German songs or finger play, like kids finger plays for her. She would love that. And it can be the same one, you know, each time they get on, like, oh, so and so's gonna do the song for us today, and it can be super short and easy. But if they'd be willing to do that, I bet you she'll just pick
You
that
could
right
also
up.
ask them what YouTube channels they would encourage, because every language has like a little, you know, toddler time YouTube channel. Or you could even maybe just search on YouTube for German children's programs and have that. But the best way to get your child to speak German is to find cousins who do not speak English and throw them in together, and you will be amazed. And just like the earlier question, kids figure it out. They're gonna figure it out. So my kids speak French, and every opportunity I could find to find a French speaking kid that did not speak English, because if they speak English, they're going to be in English, especially here in the United States. But if we could be in France and find some kids that didn't speak English, they learned so much so fast. When you're immersed and you're forced to learn it and it's in a playful way, just be sure, parents, that it's playful. I want to emphasize that I have a lot of parents that are trying to stick with their maternal tongue at home, and their kids at some point in their lives realize, wait a second, everybody's not speaking German. Everybody's speaking English. There's English on the TV, there's English on the radio, everybody's speaking English at the grocery store, and we're not speaking English. And then they kind of decide, like, well, wait, I'm just going to speak English. I'm not going to do this German stuff or Korean stuff or whatever it is that you're doing at home. And it's really frustrating for the parents who are super committed, and be strong and stubborn and stick with your language and don't get off rail. And sometimes we do. I mean, as a bilingual parent, I would get off rail with my kids as well. But the way to bring them back into the fold, into your mother tongue, is to find like their favorite game or an easy game. Even if you're just learning a game, maybe it's, Candyland, where you can count and do the colors and do it in your target language. And if there's still a little bit of resistance, then maybe offer some ice cream at the end or something special, but make it fun. Because I will tell you, as a parent, if I start going off on my kids in French, like, get your shoes on, and we're busy parents, we're getting from one thing to the next, they're gonna like, no. But if I say, hey, you've been wanting to play that game, or let's do this really fun thing, we're going to do it in French. And, it doesn't have to be, for a long period of time, but just make sure that as a parent, you have your fun face on, because we all have our not so fun parent face and our really fun parent, because kids want to play with you. They want to be interacting with their parents. You are their favorite person. And so if you're going to do that fun stuff with them, and you're going to say, well, it'll be more fun for me if we can do it in Korean, and then they're like, yeah, let's do it. So just make sure that you're being consistent and really trying to squeeze it in there where you can, and resist English.
Right. Did you want to add to that, Jill, or shall we move on to our next question?
I think I'm ready to move on.
Okay. For how long does a child typically need speech therapy? If one child needs speech therapy, are their siblings more likely to need it too?
Well, this is hard. It so depends on each child. There is research that shows that there's some genetic linkage between kids who have difficulty with language development or language delays. So if a older sibling has difficulties, then sometimes it is the case that younger ones will as well. But that's not always the case. We do know that males tend to have a little bit more difficulty with language development, or are slower with their language development. And I don't know, it's just sort of the way their brains are wired. So sometimes if you have an older sibling that's a male, and then you have a younger child that's female, you may not have difficulties. But in terms of the length of time, I mean, ideally you're trying to get them to meeting kind of those speech and language developmental milestones, which there are. And if you're concerned, or you have a child in speech therapy, your speech therapist should be talking with you pretty clearly about like what are the milestones that we expect to see. And there's a difference between a milestone and then what's like average. So sometimes people say at 12 months, the milestone for a kid is that they have one word, they say one word. But that's actually kind of a lower target. Like really what's average is like 5 or more words. And then even like what's above average is like 14 words at one. And so like Barbara is saying, I mean, kids come out of the womb sort of wired for language. And really by like 9, 10 months, they should start to be getting close to having some first words. And then, between 12 and 18 months, there's this time where language just really takes off. And, like at 18 months, we want average kids to have like 50 plus words. And so sometimes that kind of startles parents like, oh no, my child only has 5 words. Don't fret. It's just important to know that language should be coming. It should be coming pretty naturally for kids. And if it's not, then it's a good idea to get with your pediatrician or get seek out some support, because there's something either motor wise, like we've talked about, or that receptive understanding piece is a gap. Processing might be an issue, but yeah, in general, they kind of say, oh, there's late talkers, or there's a range of development, and there definitely is, and if you're kind of feeling like I think they're almost going to get it, and you want to give them a few more months between that 12 and 18-month range, you can, but just know that like our brains are hardwired, and it should be coming. And so, yeah, in terms of the time frame, I can't really say because I'm not treating the child, but that's something that your speech therapist should be able to tell you. And some people work differently, like they'll do 12 weeks of intense and then take a break, or they'll see a child for 6 months and then take a break. It kind of just depends, but the goal is that we want to get kids to age appropriate. Yeah, if that.
I have a question. It doesn't have anything to do with my teaching. I was with a friend recently, and she has a boy who will be, I think, 2 in the spring, and he does not speak a lot of words, but he also does not get very frustrated in life because all of his needs are met. And we had this big discussion about, during COVID, it's been kind of strange because he hasn't had a lot of exposure to other people or children, and so he hasn't really been stretched or pushed to express himself more than what he's already doing, because he kind of can look at his mom and his grandma, and they know what he needs and they give him what he needs, and it's very peaceful at their house. It's not, they aren't even really doing a lot of sign language, but he seems very content. And so we've talked a lot about, like, as he's getting older now, and hopefully we'll have more interactions with kids who are speaking and will need to express himself, that maybe that will, is that a thing?
Yeah, that is a thing, and that's actually, I mean, I talk a lot with parents about, creating a stimulating language environment, and some parents are big talkers. I mean, I'm a big talker. I'm a speech pathologist, but other parents are quieter people, and that's a thing. And so sometimes it's a matter of like, okay, if you tend to be a quieter person, trying to bump up your words that you use. We know that like the words, the number of words per hour that a kid hears, or the number of words they hear in a day, is directly correlated to how many words they will say. So if we can get a lot of words happening, that's a better model for kids. And then also like really trying to think about like, okay, yeah, are there snacks just like readily available to them and they just can go and get them? Do they have any need to communicate with you? And can you kind of like maybe engineer some ways that we call it sabotage in our world, but can you engineer some ways that kind of are going to be motivating for them to communicate, so that they do have to kind of say like, hey, my bars that used to be on the lower shelf that I could just go get aren't there anymore, and so I need to like tell you bars, please. And that's important to give kids those opportunities. And I do think you're right. Since COVID, there's been less stimulation, or the parents are the total responsible people for the stimulation. And so,
Yeah.
The other thing that I tell parents a lot is if you don't want to engineer the environment, or you're just like, this kid's content, he's happy, like let's not stir the pot. Sometimes just like narrating what you're doing is a really good way to get yourself talking a little more. I tell sometimes dads are really kind of uncomfortable with they tend to be quieter. So I tell them, it's like pretend like you're a play-by-play announcer in football, and just say, Daddy's getting your mac and cheese ready. It's going in the microwave. I'm going to heat it up. It's so hot right now. We need to wait. Like just giving the
And
play-by-play.
make it a game.
Yeah, make it a game.
Make it funny, like, put your funny voices on or whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Well, and if I can interject too, some parents are like, well, I really want to do sign language. And I just, when do you do that? How do you get a baby's attention? And one thing that I found that's really successful is, if you go out and you're exploring a different something, there, and kids will, like, if a cat comes in the room, they'll look at the cat and then they'll look at the parent in the eyes. And that's a perfect time to introduce cat or sha or gato or whatever, as many languages as you can. Kids can do lots of languages. So, do as many languages as you want. It's okay if they get them mixed up for a while, but yeah, so kind of it's a teachable moment. It's that timing when they look at something and then they look at you. That's your moment, so, and narrate, oh, Lisha, the cat came in and, then touch the cat. It's a soft cat. Oh, I can hear the cat, and just, put on your teaching hat and pretend you're a preschool teacher and see how that feels. And it's okay for us to try on new things as adults.
I read an article recently too. It was about the types of words that we use in our home and children's vocabulary development. And I don't remember the exact number, but the words that we find in picture books aren't words that we typically find ourselves using at home. So, I mean, just using an English context, if you're trying to build your child's, vocabulary, I mean, librarian here, but, read to your kids, that does a lot, especially if you're the whole engineering your environment thing. Books will help do that. But I also feel like this discussion leads really well into the next question in the queue. It says, my 15-month-old still doesn't say mama or any variant thereof. It does say dada. No other regular consistent vocalizations for specific things. Lots of random interchangeable noises. Should I be concerned now? And when does it become a worry? What can I do to encourage their speech?
Yeah, so I know I kind of like breezed through that like milestone average age thing. I'll send a little chart that you can send out that has that like what we expect at different time periods. I feel like something that I often tell parents to listen for is different consonant sounds. So I'm not quite sure in the description, what was it? Interchangeable vocalizations. Do the vocalizations contain a lot of different consonant sounds? So are you hearing ga, ba, da? Are you hearing different consonant sounds? That's a good indication that like, okay, we've got a lot of the sounds of language there. They're just not putting them together yet. But sometimes you'll hear kids that it's like, oh no, they really only say D, everything's D. Or everything is B. We got lots of B's, but no other sounds. That sometimes is a red flag because, like Barbara said, kids come out and they're able to say every sound, every phoneme in all of the whole world's languages, which is so awesome. And they should be, especially by 15 months, attuning to what sounds their parents are using and trying to copy those. And so if you haven't heard a variation of consonants, that's a kind of sometimes a red flag.
It's also kind of fun if your child starts making sounds and noises to really start engaging with them and just repeat back what they're doing and make it a game. And it's like, oh, you said this, I'm going to make that sound, and then maybe switch it up and you make a sound and see if they can make that sound. So if you want to hear the make sure they can see your mouth and they're doing the da, then you say ma, and see if they can do that. And then they just kind of, you catch them when they're really alert and it's fun and, just take a deep breath and be relaxed about it and have fun. And if you have other children, it can be really a silly thing to do together and make it really fun and make it, dinner time ritual or something that you kind of see how many sounds you can make.
Yeah, I love that idea. And I also think sometimes I encourage parents to get in front of the mirror. So if you're brushing teeth in the morning or anytime that you're in front of the mirror with them, get them in front of the mirror so that they can see what their mouth is doing. Sometimes kids need the visual feedback of like, oh, I've been watching my parent do that sound, and now I can see my mouth do it, and that kind of can help them to figure out what's happening. And then I had another thought, but I lost it. When you're talking about just verbal play. Oh, it just imitation in general, I think is an important thing for parents to think about. So, your child should be imitating lots of things. They should be imitating clapping. They should be imitating like motor, just gross motor things. We talked about the difference between like fine motor and gross motor. And sometimes I'll ask a parent, if you wiggle your fingers, will they wiggle their fingers or try to wiggle their fingers? And their parents will say, oh no, they're not really doing that. That's sometimes another indication, like, okay, there's some part of this like reciprocal thing that's just disconnected. So kind of probe there too, like, can we just have fun imitation? And I love, Barbara, you're so good about like, make it fun. Language is fun.
It is
And
fun.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a parent who has a little concern and a little worry going on in the back of your head, it can cause you to be uptight. And kids, they have these spidey senses. They know, even if you're doing your best to hide that you're upset or you're worried or you've got like a concern, they get it. So just really try to take a deep breath and put your happy face on and just, love them for where they are in the spot that they are in, and repetition and fun and all of it is good. So there, God made all of these gifts for us.
Yeah, I think that's a huge piece. Sometimes you get in the habit of wanting to really get them, say banana, and the minute you do that, kids are like, I'm not doing that. And so just trying to kind of like meet them where they're at, and remember that we are the models. Sometimes I use the metaphor of like kids have a cup that you have to fill up with language before it will overflow and it comes out. And so it's our job to fill up the cup. And so if they're not at the level yet where they're saying Nana, okay, it's our job to say as many things as we can about the banana. This is a banana, it's yellow. We peel it, it goes down, down, down. Ooh, it feels squishy. Like that's how much talking we should be doing. And then it takes all the pressure off them. Like, you don't have to do anything. I'm just going to tell you about this. So that's sometimes helpful for parents, like fill up that cup and it'll overflow eventually.
And they love repetition. So if you do that every time you get a banana out, they will love it. They'll be like, hey, you've done that before. You got my attention now. What's going to happen next? And just, make it games everywhere you go. Make it funny.
And to Jenny's point, I love your librarian piece. Books, because they have that visual cue, are so helpful, especially for some kids that are struggling for whatever reason. They need that visual help. It's like this picture is the same every time. And when we look at it, every time my mom says that cat word, and this time when we do that page, it's going to come out. But books are helpful. The other plug I wanted to make was for the Lena program. I don't know, Jenny, if you might know more about.
It is a fantastic program, and we are definitely looking for participants. So basically, it's about promoting speech and language with your young ones, and they give you like a talk pedometer kind of to put on your child's. There's a special little vest they wear, and it doesn't record what's being said at all. So it's not like we're spying on anybody, but it does kind of like, it measures, I guess, the vibrations. And then parents can have feedback, and it's about the turns that you make, and conversational turns with your child, and how ways to maybe increase those conversational turns and develop language. and that it's a fantastic program. So I highly encourage anybody to sign up for that.
Yeah, it's a way to kind of be able to assess too. It'll tell you like times of the day where you are talking more, or have given more language input. So it's like, oh, look, in the morning, like there was a lot of talking happening. And then in the evening, everybody was really tired and there wasn't much talking, and so you can kind of like see it charted out, which is, I've used it with some parents that like are engineers, and it's very helpful for them to like see the chart and they can be like, oh, no problem. I'll just like start talking more at 3. And so it's a cool program if you're interested in that.
Yeah, if anybody wants to sign up for that, it's on our website, but you can also contact me. It's you can see my name on the screen. It's J and then Gector, J Gector, spelled there. I won't spell it out for you. At ppld.org, and I can direct you to the sign up for that too. You can also call me. My extension is call the library phone number, and then my extension is 6052.
I was going to add on to the whole book discussion, which I love, and my house is full of books too. But we actually had a little break in my French classes this week where we're exploring farm animals. And so we've been talking a lot about farm animals. We've been showing the kids, different formats, toys, and, felt and books. And I really encourage all the parents now this week, go out to the pumpkin patches, go to the, the animal little, what do they call it? The touching
Petting zoo.
Petting zoo, thank you, French. So go to the petting zoo, because now you can go and you might see a little goat. You can say, they see the goat. Oh, it looks like that picture in real life. And then you can say it to them in French or any other language that you're having. But it really is it's really fun to see how kids go, aha, that's a duck. And the duck is quacking, and it's just, so get out there and go to the nature centers, go to the zoo. There's lots of things to do. Just get them outside and have new experiences. I know it's kind of hard with COVID, but
we did a really cool project similar to that with a preschool group that I was working with several years ago, where we went on a field trip and took photos of the animals and then brought it back to the classroom and printed it out, laminated the pages, put the vocabulary words on there, and then made like a little book out of it. Great. That book got so much use. It was a wonderful project.
They're taking those memories of actually being there, and they know that goat, and now the word is written for them, and it's just like the whole holistic approach to it. And when they start talking, trust me, parents, when they start talking, they'll really like have lots of words. They won't want to stop talking about the goat, and it'll be a whole different problem.
All right, well, we've got about 4 minutes left. Was there anything, Jill or Barbara, that you wanted to add that we haven't talked about yet that people bring to you or anything like that?
I was going to say, there's the common problem for parents that really want to do foreign languages with their kids, but maybe are struggling to find a program, like the family that wanted to work with their child in German. And right now we don't have a German program for very young kids. So I often encourage them to do whatever language is available. Right now, I think I'm the only French music lingua teacher, the only music lingua teacher in Colorado Springs. So I have a lot of families that their real goal is not French. And that's okay, because, if you are stimulating that narrow pathway, just do something, and it is true that, if you get the one language, and then you get the second language, and then the third language is really easy. And it is true that the more you do, the more, and it's easier. So, and I have one family that I like to brag about a lot. Like, dad is from Germany, mom is from Mexico. They're here in the United States in English. You just can't even avoid it. And then they did French classes with me for a very long time. The kids were brilliant, and they're doing Mandarin at school. I mean, they're doing 5 languages, and these kids just switch in between, and they're just so capable. And they're not, it's not a family that they're not special. They just did it, and their kids did wonderfully in it. So their oldest has grown up in music lingua with me, and his French is good. He's in my big kid program before COVID. So yeah, so just go out there and find something that stimulates you as a family and do that.
I'd like to put a plug in too. I've been working on, it's called Once Upon a Sign ASL Storytime. We're doing it in partnership with the School for the Deaf here in Colorado Springs. And it's really great. Right now it's all virtual, but you can find it on our virtual calendar online, and you do not have to be deaf to go. We have hearing children, there's deaf children at it, but it's a really great, we pick a story and there's a representative. Right now it's me, I'm filling in for somebody while she's on maternity leave. And then we have our representative from the School for the Deaf and an interpreter. So it's a really great, we have really great discussions with the kiddos.
What are the age ranges?
Oh, there's 2 sessions. So we do a 0 to 3 session and then a 4 to 8 year old session.
Okay.
So yeah, check those out. Again, contact me if you have any questions about it. But
very cool.
I did just want to add, because I realized that I wasn't necessarily clear about the resource exchange offers free therapy, free intervention for kids that qualify birth to 3. So all those questions that are coming about my 15-month-old, my 12-month-old, if you are concerned and you just want to even just see like, hey, is this an issue? You can call the resource exchange. I'm going to get Jenny a flyer that she can send out, and just say, say the age of your child and that you'd like to have an evaluation, and a team will come out. There's a team that is designated for each region. We do it by school districts, but whatever school district you live in, there's a team of physical therapists, occupational therapists, and speech therapists who can provide a free evaluation and say, yeah, you know what, they might benefit from some intervention, we'd be happy to help, or no, looking good, touch back with us if you want. But that's a free service for kids below 3. So don't hesitate to use that.
So, and Jill, as a side, we haven't really talked about it. We've talked about ASL, but there are services available to get your young children checked for hearing challenges. And a lot of times the verbal is directly linked to what they're actually hearing. So if it's coming in garbled, it will come out garbled. So that's, I don't know. I know my daughter had some free hearing checks when she was quite young. She had some hearing challenges. So I'm sure those are available through TRE as well.
Yes, thanks, Barbara. Yes, those are available through TRE or sometimes your local school district. But yeah, even kids that have like a lot of ear infections, sometimes that can impact.
Absolutely.
So, and really, if you think about, we do great newborn hearing screening now, like awesome. We check all the kids when they're newborns, but then they might never get checked again. So, especially, yeah, after a year, 2 years, it's might be time to do that again. So that's a resource we can provide.
And that's an easy thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Just check with your pediatrician.
Yeah.
all right, well, I think we are out of time. This has been a really great discussion though, and I really appreciate both of your time, and I appreciate our guests for coming and joining us today. My dogs are going to put on a show here for a second for you. I do want to remind everybody I'll be sending out the survey link, and I'll have all of the information, contact information, and resources and things like that attached to that. Do fill that out. Again, if you're participating as an anonymous guest and you weren't registered for some reason, please reach out to me. Extension, again, phone extension is 6052, and then I'll make sure that you're included on that survey list, because that's how you get entered into the grand prize drawing and to the $50 gift card drawing for attending tonight.
And Jenny, can I say one more thing? And I think you're going to send out a link, but if any of you participants would like to do a little free music lingua class, I have on my website, there's a free tab. And the same class actually is recorded. It's on the library YouTube channel as well. But there is a free class that you can do. So go out and do it. It's a Itsy Bitsy Spider in French. It's a lot of fun. It is pre-recorded. And I will be live now in person at the libraries again, at Library 21C and the East Library in January. So come out and bring your kids any age and come and play with me. So there's that. But anything I can do to help you along the way, I'd love to.
And also, in a couple weeks, this video will be posted on our PPLD TV YouTube channel. So if there's things that you want to go back and rewatch, sometimes it takes a while to upload them, but it will be there. So
Great.
All right.
All right.
Well,
Thanks, everyone.
I'll let you guys go again. Thank you so much. It was great to meet you.
Merci. Au revoir.